In the time being, if we want to reinforce this maritime cooperation, we need to strengthen the multilateral approach. At a time when the oceans are returning to the Earth of the major geostrategic stake and a very noticeable naval rearmament throughout the Indo-Asia-Pacific regions, improving the effectiveness of the action of the state at sea cooperation within the maritime framework is an absolute priority. The aim is to better share information of maritime interest and to have a crisis response system based on responsiveness. But apart from the major routes of trans-Pacific communications, we need to recognize that oceans tend to suffer, like many of their Southeast Asian counterparts, first of all, a lack of state means in maritime surveillance. This is true on the water, but even more so from the airspace. Almost all Pacific states and territories depend on the aerial surveillance of the maritime space for the means employment by Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, and French, resources to which the state of Southeast Asia rarely have access. The inadequacy of the available means is conducive to the development of illicit trafficking, particularly narcotics. This deficiency is fully exploited by the drug cartel that supplies the Australian and New Zealand market with cocaine and ice from Latin America, but also with some extension to Southeast Asia. The road of traffic, in the midst of which Fiji seems to constitute a hub, are located on the axis crossing the maritime space of French Polynesia and UK. And this partially populated an arsenal with fragment and geographically dispersed territory. Some inhabitant a remote island and become a black hole that can be exploited by individual traffickers and organized crime, including well-organized triad and quest group around the ASEAN countries. Unfortunately, there are no common platform for cooperation between the Pacific Island states and the country of Southeast Asia. This missing link is damaging in the fight against trafficking, money laundering, human trafficking, illegal immigrations, or even bound fraud. Institutional consent between the ASEAN Secretary and Pacific Island Foreign Secretary are too episodic and lack of sufficient constituency to cope with the challenge. It's also to be feared that this shortcoming will be exploited sooner or later by terrorist group or individual jihadist fighters. Nevertheless, the fight against this threat is increasingly becoming a priority and regional dimension for public policy. Coordination efforts to more efficient police cooperation include, for example, the consolidation of a platform for exchange to combat transnational crime, such as Pacific Police Chief, PICP, which is for the first time at France through the French Polynesia. For France, they could also involve an increasing involvement in the network of Center for the Coordination of Transnational Crime in the Pacific, set up in 2002. By structuring their cooperation and trade across the Pacific, PICT are preparing the condition for better transpacific cooperation and synergy with their partners in Southeast Asia, Far East, and Latin America. And it's an additional advantage for the future and action of Interpol. In practice, the new challenge and international coordination create a federative dynamic. It opens a concrete prospect for new short-term cooperation, particularly in the field of the fight against illegal fishing. Many technical cooperation agencies in the region, like the FFA, the SPC, benefit from this. Satellite tools, increased information exchange throughout common situation platform, or engagement of strategic reflections and monitoring of black holes, constitute a privileged track of cooperation, especially, notably, between France, Australia, and New Zealand. This situation also brings new awareness. Even if it's 1,000 years old geophysical and maritime evidence, today the Pacific countries take full advantage of the interconnection of maritime space. The degradation of the maritime environment in Southeast Asia is not without consequence on the coast of Oceania and the fishing zone. The realities have become very concrete for most Micronesian and Melanesian countries. For a little more than a year now, In New Caledonia, the effect of this reality has been observed on coral and some fishery resources. The penetration still further into the Western Pacific, for example, the Vietnamese fishing fleet, is not unrelated to the obstacle these sailors have encountered for years now in large of the Paracel and Spratly Island. In other words, the way China acts militarily in the South China Sea is directly affecting our interests, our territories, and those of our immediate neighbors. The country bordering the South China Sea should be well aware that our preoccupation with subregion go far beyond a few questions of principle, however important they may be to the freedom and of air and maritime navigations. This development underscores the urgent need for the international community to seek the establishment of a regional fishery management organization for the South Pacific, but also for Southeast Asia. It's also the interest of the European state of the Asiatic frontage of the Pacific, because illegal in report and irregular fishing has become an industrial and prominent issue throughout the Pacific. As a fisher state and a coastal state of the region, France is directly concerned by this issue. Alongside the challenge of fishing, the development of the cruise tourist industry, the steamboat increasing in size and carrying out now up to 6,000 passengers to island, sometime with no more than a few hundred inhabitants, lead us to consider with renewed attention the field of mass rescue at sea and the possibility of large-scale pollutions. Improved relief requires greater responsiveness, better sharing of information, and coordinated deployment of the means by Australia, New Zealand, France, and the United States. And in this context, it would be useful that some new Asian partners should join this effort as soon as possible. The safety of cruise tourists, whose number of Asians growing steadily, like in Southeast Asia, increase to secure for facilities. There is no doubt that in this perspective, the tourist threat must be taken into account. It's not entirely virtual. In December 2015, the Australian police arrested 2 people in Sydney with this kind of bloody intention. In addition, safety plan must include consideration of offshore attack or infiltration from the sea. Lesson to be learned from the terrorist attack in recent years in the maritime borders of Malaysia and the Philippines, which have already claimed the life of several European nationals, as it was underlined again last week with the death of a German citizen. More generally, France is very vigilant to the fragility of its island neighbors. Installation of failed state at its gate would inevitably damage its interests and its security. In addition, the tyranny of distance between state and between islands within the same country is a particularly severe constraint for states with limited capacity. In conclusion, France, ranked first for the richness of its marine ecosystem and the excellence of its oceanographic research, is recognized throughout the world. Its industrial, naval, and nautical sectors cover an almost complete spectrum of competence, and the French flag enjoy a favorable image because of the quality and technicality of the ship and its crew. Its national navy presence on all ASEAN have a high operational level. Finally, France stands up of its expertise in the management of protect hazards. At the international level, and under the auspice of the UN General Assembly, the consultation procedure has been put in place to reach an international agreement that will protect the marine environment and biodiversity on the sea. Negotiations should lead to the adoption of an implementation agreement to the Montego Bay Convention on the law of the sea, and this perspective raised important policy issues, including the possibility of calling into question the classic principles of freedom of the ice and navigation of the ice sea. France is also working on the implementation of a strategy by exploring and exploiting the deep sea belt. Open prospects give rise to intense competition and competition between states. France is involved with the International Seabed Authority to ensure that France's interests are taken into account. with regard to the deep seabed beyond the continental